Hello, everyone. Happy Pappy's Day to all of you fantastic papas out there. We love you. We appreciate you. We see you. You're doing it and you're doing it well. I commend you all. Keep up the great work. Um, and today is day part three of our discussion on the 6 stages of caregiving. The 6 stages are that you excuse me, I'm listening because I'm hosting people, so please forgive me. I am hosting people and I'm trying to remember all of the 6 stages all together, but I didn't have them all, so I have them there. Right, the expectant caregiver, the freshman caregiver, the entrenched caregiver, the pragmatic caregiver, the transitioning caregiver, and the Godspeed caregiver. So this evening we're talking about transitioning and Godspeed. Really interesting names. I will call them more so the grief stage of caregiving and the rebuilding stage of caregiving. At this time, your loved one is in the severe stage of Alzheimer's, and they're able to do even less for themselves, especially right first at that grief stage. And that's when your powers and the permission that you give yourself to be a staunch advocate for your caree and the person that your loved one is really kicking in, right? Because they are at the end of their lives, they're incapable of doing much of anything for themselves at this stage. And so you are no longer trying to um, extend their lives, right? Now it's all about that stage where they're essentially passing, where you're really just trying to make sure that they're comfortable, right? It's all about quality of life, not necessarily trying to prolong their lives if they're going to stay in at the state that they're in. You're doing everything that you can for them, and really it's all about making them as comfortable as you can during this stage. And that means, fighting off all the other people who have things to say in your ear, right? At this stage, that's when you have maybe family members who haven't been as active and participative in care, who now want to step in and dictate what gets done, how it gets done, where things go, what you should be doing for that loved one that you've been caring for all along by yourself, potentially, right? So there's a potential for family conflict to arise. So you want to keep your head and also stand your ground, right? If you are the one who's been given the care, then you're the person who makes the decisions. You should have, hopefully, put together an end of life plan for your loved one where you are following that plan, right? If it's comfort care that you want them to have and not proactive care trying to, prolong their lives as much, but having their quality of life trump how much longer they stay alive, is what your decision is. You stick with that decision, their decision. Hopefully it was a decision that was made with your loved one in preparation for this time. But at any rate, in this stage, not only are you preparing for your loved one to pass, you probably hit the time when they actually do pass. So you're grieving the whole way because you're seeing and along the journey, you've seen the loved one that you knew no longer be who they were, right? And so you've had some time to kind of see it and adjust to what's been going on all along. And then they pass, eh? And hopefully it was a pleasant passing, right? One that was not painful and kind of restful. And then the last step is rebuilding, or technically the Godspeed stage is what it's called. And that's when you are no longer caring for that person, right? They have passed and now your caregiving duties are over. What do you do next? How do you even approach going back into what your life was? Because it's never going to be the same, right? You spent however much time putting someone else's needs before yours. How do you now start to put yourself first? How do you not look for the next thing to latch on for you to have to be in charge of and taking care of someone else but you, right? Now is the time that you want to make sure that you get back to yourself and care for you. You give yourself permission to grieve however you do it, right? Don't hold it in, but you don't have to fit into a particular mold when it comes to how you express your grief. If you express your grief, right? You don't have to outwardly express your grief for everyone else to see. You handle it how you handle it. I am talking to myself right now, by the way. Um, and you allow yourself to take the time that you need to determine what your next steps are, and fill that void however suits you, right? Don't let some external vision or thought of what grief looks like, right? Are you supposed to be so devastated now that your loved one is gone that you are incapable of functioning? Is it okay for you to be okay? Yes, it is. Talking to myself again. Again, I for me have I spent that grieving stage, and before that, grieving the person that my mom was, because by the time she was passing, she really didn't know who I was, except for the Friday, basically the Friday before she passed. I said something to her, and she said something back to me that made me realize that she knew it was me, and it was just fantastic. And literally the next day, she couldn't talk anymore. Um, so it was like, it was great that we had that moment where she recognized who I was. And I did a Facebook post about it, so you guys can look back on it and see it. It just filled me with such joy for my mom to actually recognize I was there and not just her friend or someone who was looking in on her, right? And then she didn't know who I was anymore. And hey, my German. She didn't recognize who I was anymore. And she couldn't even talk anymore. But I had that moment, and it was fantastic. But before that, I was taking the time or going through all of the emotions and grieving her. So when she did pass, for me, it was a blessing, not only because she was no longer in pain. She was no longer just in her own head, right? At that time, she couldn't talk anymore, so she couldn't even really express herself. She could say certain words, but really, just coherent thoughts weren't coming. She wasn't physically like moving around and everything like that. So for me, it was all about um, her quality of life and her just being comfortable in transitioning. And we were able to get to an external hospice from the hospital. And the last few days of her life were just so peaceful for her. They took really great care of her at the hospice location. And for us, the day before she passed, there were like 13 of us. Didn't matter how many of us, we could come and go. It was just like they took care of us as well as her. So hospice was just bomb for us. And I will never ever forget those people and the level of comfort that they provided to all of us as a family, not just to my mom. Something as simple as they combed her hair, right? I will readily admit that she had braids most of the time, right? But then when she had her ponytail, combing her hair didn't cross my mind, and oddly enough. And then I just walked in after they had finished with her for the day, and her hair was combed, and I noticed it, and it was just like, wow. And it just filled me with such joy and happiness that they actually cared enough to even do that next thing for her. So, if you can get your family member into a hospice location, if you're having it at home, you have people come and care for them in the home because that's what they want, right? You're obviously going to do what it is that you as a family have decided to do. But I absolutely appreciated being able to take her to that external hospice location, get all of the 24/7 support. Like, it took such a burden off of me, to not have to be on every second while we were in the hospital because of everything else that was happening, and other stuff that we can discuss at another time, right? So it just took so much pressure off. I honestly felt like we were just on vacation somewhere, and I'm not even exaggerating. But at any rate, during that rebuilding stage, you are going to, I really jumped back to something, right? You are going to be figuring out who it is that you are again, what it is that you want to do again. You will have seen, right, the progression of life and someone being so vivid and active, and just your mom, in my instance, to turning into someone else, right? Turning inward, forgetting this present her and turning back into her old self and things like that. So you've seen the downward slope, if you will, um, and now you have a greater appreciation. The Yankees are playing in the background in case you heard some people out there. Um, and so you've seen it all, and now you just have a different perspective on life because you see how my mom was 81, right? And I'm about to say, life is so short. Life is short, and you want to make sure that you're living it to the fullest. You want to make sure that you are doing the things that you love with the people that you love. And that you are not letting any external anything weigh you down. Like at this stage, I feel like I'm turning into the old head that gonna say whatever they want to say, how they want to say it, when they want to say it, because I've earned it. Like you've earned it already. You don't have to fit into any mold for anyone for any reason, not in the caregiving state or outside of it, right? Be you, be happy, and be love and light and kind to everyone because it makes a huge, huge difference. So thank you very much for tuning in to my 3-part series on the 6 stages of caregiving. I'll be back tomorrow with some really great information for you as well. And I haven't been writing it, but happy Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. And we'll continue to talk things Alzheimer's, things brain related, and actually they go together. Throughout the rest of this month and beyond, because it is really important to me to help anyone that I can who's going through this or has been through it, right? Stick around if you have finished your caregiving journey because you're still going through it, eh? I still get postcards from the hospice place letting me know that I can come there and get grief counseling still. And they offer that for a year for the family afterwards, which is fantastic of them too. But at any rate, have a great rest of your Father's Day, fellas, and to my ladies, take care of your guys if you're with them. And everyone, enjoy. Bye bye. Bye 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 bye.